lives in the Atlanta area. She's been a Unitarian Universalist minister for more than 25 years, serving individual congregations as a guest minister and in leadership roles with the Unitarian Universalist Association. She is also an essayist, a poet, and an activist for human rights. Please welcome Marti Kelller.
Thank you. So we've been watching the Olympics. We've been watching the Olympics in prime time for the ice skating, which is what I care about. And when I was thinking, congratulations, Norway. And by the way, our American guy ice skating, arrogant, deserved to lose, in my opinion. 8th place is kind of harsh, but that's okay. I was thinking, what if they had like scoring for preaching? Technical scores, artistic. Please don't. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. I grew up in Palo Alto, which housed a lot of the swimming practices and track and field. So Olympics are very near and dear to my heart, and very little attention's being paid to them. I think it's too bad because they're one of our finer moments, except that guy who's kind of arrogant. So it has been a little while since I've been with you, weather interfering, since before the winter holidays, I believe, because I come on the 3rd Sunday of the month. So I want to give you a recap. We spent, my husband and I, much of Christmas Day 2025 in flight, in extremely bumpy flight over the Rockies and then over the Sierra Nevadas. It's the first time that I grabbed the bag. And the next few days at a gathering in California of our immediate family. A family that I like to think of as being typically American, multi-ethnic, WASP. Our son-in-law has indisputable New England, even Mayflower roots. I think he's our diversity, by the way. Chinese, my daughter-in-law. Puerto Rican, my daughter-in-law. Ashkenazi Jewish, the rest of us. And also multi-generational. 2 boomers, 3 Gen Xers, 2 millennials, and 4 Gen Alpha progeny, our grandchildren. It was the grandchildren who provided a focus group for me when I narrowed down my annual exploration of the 2025 words of the year, based on the picks of dictionaries around the world since about 2008. The terms that shaped how we talked, messaged, searched, and just generally made sense of the world around us through words. As one newsletter writer observed, the words that made the cut this year are about as absurd as they have ever been, spanning everything from our relationship to AI. So there was AI slop that feels soulless or just wrong, to parasocial, the one-sided relationships we form with digital creators, celebrities, and influencers. And I didn't even know who the hell they were until this year. But think TikTok, or not. To vibe coding, how we signal our daily moods non-verbally. And another one that I will look at later in my talk this morning, so you have to wait to hear that one. Yeah, 6, 7. 6, 7. Reflecting how language has evolved beyond letters entirely. 6, 7, which exploded last summer, especially among Gen Zs or Zoomers, born between 1998 and 2010, and now parroted by Gen Alpha. Dictionary.com picked 67 as its word of the year, which is a viral meme originated from a rapper, even while their panel of editors admitted they're still trying to figure out exactly what it means. When asked, my grandchildren, 2A1, told me, are you ready for this? That it means exactly nothing. That it is nonsense, in other words, a response backed up by late teens and college agers in our own congregations, an inside joke, a way to mess with their Gen X parents and their boomer grandparents. Nonetheless, one college sophomore told an internet interviewer that she is unapologetic about using 6-7, sprinkling it in her speech. She finds joy in it. It's a little bit silly, and even though I don't understand what it means, it's fun to use. And used it has been. While mostly spoken aloud as 6-7, it can even be combined as the number 67. At college basketball games, some fans explode when a team reaches that point total. 67! Woo! But its essential meaninglessness may be the primary reason that 6-7 now tops the list of words that respondents to an annual Michigan College survey of overused and misused words saying that 6-7 is cooked, which is another endangered word and should come to a massive full stop in 2026. Nonetheless, this boomer was gratified to find one definition indicating that it does actually have a definition. It's often used to express mediocrity or dismissal, similar to the word meh. How many of you know the word meh? Indicating, however, tenuously that it's not a new state of mind. This word that made it into one of the multi-million-dollar ads that punctuated the Super Bowl, and I'm going to show it to you.
Love this.
YouTube TV is amazing. Why would you settle for anything less?
Why would anybody settle for just meh? Can you imagine ordering off a menu?
It's all just a bit meh.
That's very kind of you. Meh is what I strive for.
Or a magician?
Do you want to see some magic?
Or a figure skating?
And to finish, the double clutch.
She sticks it.
And it's Mez across the board from the judges.
What if McCaffrey was meh?
McCaffrey.
Get it? McCaffrey? McCaffrey.
Oh, I get it. What if your beard was just meh?
Too far.
Don't settle for meh. With more flexibility than ever, see why YouTube TV has been rated the #1 live TV service 3 years in a row. Try it free and cancel anytime.
Yeah! Can you imagine Matt at the Super Bowl? By the way, I really loved America the Beautiful. That was really well done. And the Star Spangled Banner, even though I didn't even know who he was, it was great. And yes, I stayed up for the first few minutes of the controversial halftime show, and it was great. But I understand, I'm going to sound real football-y, that it was a really boring game. It was a defense game. Okay. I can relate to, as Matt has also flourished for a while, nearly 20 years ago. 20 years ago, Matt was a big thing. At that time, the New York Times did not consider meh a matter of indifference, so, not worth the ink on the page. Quite to the contrary, each week in the Sunday magazine, the editors dedicated a solid inch to a not hot, not meh list, culled from the suggestions on their Twitter hashtag @mehlist. So here are some of the mess from then, and you know what I like you to do, vote. Fleece, meh. Grover the Muppet, meh. Brown mascara, meh. Turkey thighs, meh. Wool hoodies, meh. Framed maps, meh. Caribbean cruises, meh. Limited time offers, meh. Chopsticks, meh. Double dating, meh. And the world did not end, meh. One rather shocking to me item on a meh list one early December was the NHL lockout that year. It has been an untested theory of mine that for the men in my life, sports are never meh, giving them a definite advantage when it comes to the possibility of sinking into a deep meh spot. Because as my husband has pointed out, no sooner does one sport decide its champions than another sport ramps up, from football to basketball to baseball, and for some hockey, punctuated with tennis and golf tournaments and beach volleyball, and of course the upcoming World Cup soccer, and this week, the Olympics with all of the bobsledding and the skiing and the ice skating. So right out of the holidays, when we're expecting to slide into kind of a mess state, you know what I'm talking, how many of you do kind of a mess state? Comes the high point of the pro football season with visions of chili and spinach dip dancing in their heads. No time for apathy. Football is not even close to meh for me. It actually evokes a healthy emotion of loathing. You want to know why? Okay. I was a junior in college when I was hit by a car standing on the sidewalk in Berkeley, California, waiting to catch a bus. Actually, that's not very funny. And laid up in the student health center with a smashed pelvis and other broken bones. Laid up as in I couldn't leave the bed for many weeks. So, my father and my brothers came to visit on a Sunday afternoon. Rather, they came to visit and also to make sure they did not miss the fourth quarter of the 49ers game. There I was, immobilized, trapped to be more accurate. The crowd roared. The announcers' voices rose and fell with each play, and my family in the moment, totally in the mix, albeit spectators, groaned and cheered, oblivious to my pain, physical and mental. No, sports don't seem to be met. In fact, they might well be a surefire antidote to indifference, providing regular bursts of vicarious adventure. And when I did a random poll one year of what to look forward to in January besides the Super Bowl, I still got back the Super Bowl from a preponderance of the males, and I know my husband's going to want me to tell you that 40% of the Super Bowl fans are women, okay? And you can tell him I told you that. My own specific meh list at one time included all of the half-hour primetime network comedies, Korean tacos, bacon ice cream, and infinity pools no matter what country and what cookie-cutter resort they're attached to. And one year taking the risk of being shunned by a large percentage of the American female public, especially the American female Unitarian Universalist public. I was meh about the premiere episode of the third season of Downton Abbey. When asked what was meh, one person responded adamantly that cooking had become that way for her. When once she had gone out of her way to cook from scratch, now it had become a repetitive meh chore. Others talked about meh more universally, about being not happy, not sad, going through the motions while your emotions are in the fog, uninspired, unimpressed, unpersuaded, so uninterested that I don't care to provide or engage in further discourse with respect to the topic on hand. I don't want to talk about meh, one person said. Meh is when you don't have the energy to say blah. And Monday mornings are definitely meh-worthy, another admitted. So meh can feel like mild blues, not good, not bad, just less than ideal. When nothing is going on and the sun is not shining, we can slide into world weariness. How many of you have felt that? Winter light, the dimmer days, the paler days, the bare sky, the bare trees. Gray on gray are black and white landscape, tree trunks and bare branches, gnarled and ghostly. Winter, for those of us who do not fare well in the dim and the loss of light, can come to view this season mainly as a time of sorrow and barrenness, or more often just meh. Even in this culture, when most of us live in almost eternal light and warmth, plugging in our lamps, ramping up the wattage in our bulbs, turning up the thermostat, lighting our wood and gas fires, it is still there, that sense of darkness that may not ever end. Even in a state, a maddening state like Georgia that tricks us in February with swatches of blue sky and 30-degree increases in temperature, daffodils bursting out only to face the wind, rain, and chill again. Sorry that they ever emerged. You have some in your yard? I do. I have a whole bunch. There are things we can do to make the winter blues less debilitating, and you can raise your hand if you want. We can watch the caffeine we take in. We can watch the carbs. We can watch the sugar. We can eat more protein. We can search for patches of sun and make sure we take advantage of it. We can walk even if we don't feel like it, or work out. For the outer and inner landscape of winter includes also lessons in the sense of being personally scoured, cleaned of excess and pretense. It can be about helping those for whom winter and life is especially harsh. Winter can highlight our fragility and our vulnerability, our need for community and hospitality, for tea and comfort, for reaching out. But winter can also make us aware of those for whom cold and damp make them especially vulnerable to illness and helplessness. Winter can show us those corners where children are too cold to get out from the covers, to dress in unheated rooms and go to school. I know some of those people. When I worked in North Georgia and the mountains, I knew these children who could not get out of bed, where the homeless wrap themselves in green garbage bags and huddle beneath underpasses or in city parks after dusk, where the holiday food baskets are long empty and gardens lay barren. Holocaust survivor novelist Elie Wiesel wrote that the opposite of love is not hate but indifference. It is not giving a damn. It is not giving a damn. It is living too long in meth or too long in 6-7. Now, are you ready to have me show you one more word? Personally, I have been shaken out of any meh, any pervasive indifference that I carried into 2026. First, those just past weeks of bitter cold that caused me to have to kind of wake up and prepare for blackouts, for not having light and not having power and not having heat for a long time. Dark and frigid rooms and days of isolation, which thank God did not happen, but happened in Nashville. 10, 11, 12, 13 days they had no heat, no electricity, no nothing. And then the infuriating reports from Minneapolis of a toddler hauled off to Texas, a 5-year-old seized as bait to arrest his father, a man dragged from his home in little more than his underwear. Kidnappings and 2 execution-style murders of American citizens carried out by masked militia in combat fatigues recruited for their hatred of the other. Recruited for their hatred of the other, their mistaken loyalties, their false patriotism, pawns in a deadly exercise of power. Pain already being carried out to spend billions of dollars to build massive detention centers. And we already know where they are in this state. The feelings re-triggering in me, physical helplessness and ongoing psychological helplessness. How many of you felt that way in the face of just that happening? So that is in the extreme opposite of meh. The extreme opposite of meh, a now too familiar feeling for me, my jaw clenching, my face flushing, my hands shaking in rage, felt for rational and irrational reasons on a personal and global level. More often, it is destructive. We hurt ourselves and those around us. But used skillfully, this rage is an effective tool for recognizing that a situation has to change. How do we become angry at the system oppressing us, but not directing the anger at the people caught up in the system? One of the 2025 words of the year, chosen by Oxford University Press, along with meh, recognizes the danger of unchecked exposure to incitements to rage. How many of you might know which word that was? Rage baiting. Rage baiting, also known as rage farming, rage seeding, an internet slang term described as the manipulative tactic of causing outrage with the goal of increasing internet traffic, online engagement, and revenue through inflammatory headlines, tropes, or comments that provoke users to respond in kind. How many of you have read these? You know what they are? They're on the left and on the right. When you do the real thing, you can see it on your phone. I admit that when I scroll through my phone late at night or at my dining room table early in the morning, sometimes I have been susceptible to the anger that is triggered in me, the moral outrage, as I fall into a trap of believing posts, including misinformation, toxicity, and what is called low-quality news. This is news from people I don't even know. It's not Heather Cox Richardson or Robert Reich or any of these people that I've read who have things in the New York Times. These are just random people on the internet. How do we combat, and poised on a few occasions to repost this fabricated content? How do we combat this pernicious vulnerability, this provocation of blind hatred, while keeping the possibility of righteous anger alive? How many of us were relieved to hear that Renee Good's last words were that, "I'm not angry with you, dude"? Okay, were you happy that she said she wasn't angry? As if an angry response by a woman being threatened, a provocative response, proactive response to what ICE was carrying out in her neighbor, might have provided any justification for being killed by an out-of-control agent who had an anger management issue. Why were we so afraid that she was angry? That's what I'm saying, why? Or that the blunt anger of her wife merits a federal investigation into her political activities and her public witness. The angry spouse who gets investigated. Regardless of gender, we receive persistent messages about the folly of the downside of anger, and here are some of the truisms we hear all the time. He who angers you conquers you. For every minute you are angry, you lose 60 seconds of happiness. Anger is one letter short of danger, and anger blows out the lamp of the mind. Angry management experts teach us about increasing our bodily awareness to notice when we are feeling angry. Is it in our chest? Is it in our jaws? Is it in our hands? They instruct us on deep breathing and muscle relaxation, biofeedback, meditation. That's the kind of unacceptable anger, dangerous, displaced anger, lashing out, bursting out rage, and devastating depression, anger held back for too long and then turned inward. But what about righteous anger? What about righteous anger? The emotion associated with affirming personal worth and dignity. The anger that might help us maintain crucial feelings of honor and importance and self-respect when you have been personally taken advantage of and exploited. For example, have you ever been fired from a job and had no credible explanation for why you were let go? Or on a less personal level, perhaps, if you believe in fair wages for work done, a raise in the minimum wage, for example, and there is no response legislatively, and the ranks of billionaires rise and rise and rise, this sense of injustice can lead to a personal and completely understandable and justifiable and expressed anger, which leads to social change. The anger that will fuel the change we so desperately need to meet this moment, if we use it well. These words from Karen Salomonson, I love them. The world is both burning and blooming. You get the bad news and the sunrise in the same day. You cry over the headlines and then you laugh at a baby wearing a hat like a bear. This, I love this line, this is the dual citizenship of being alive. Rage and reverence, grief and grace. You're allowed to scream. You are allowed to scream. And still notice how good the soup is. You don't have to choose. Let it all in, and may it be so. Do we have any time?
Do we have any questions
Any
or comments?
comments?
The rage thing about what it does to you physically and the kind of things like adrenaline that are released when you feel like you're cornered, or if there's something that, I've read that it could be addictive.
I bet.
That you can like look for tigers to feel
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's why so much of, I mean, I didn't read part of the mostly we hear that. Mostly we get the you shouldn't get enraged and why we shouldn't get enraged. So this is kind of a little bit of a correction, yeah.
so, and also I said Eagle Phoenix and I meant Swift
Okay.
Mill.
Other comments?
I realized
Question.
later.
Thank you. That was not meh.
Thank you. Others? Yeah? Connie?
Well, as a lover of words, I really appreciate that education. I thought 6'7" was fire. So now I know.
Yes.
But I just think it's so important to think about words and to think about the words we're saying in our own heads. And
No, I do this every year. I do words for a while every year because it matters so much to me. These words this year were kind of absurd. They were very generationally targeted, which is good, which is a good thing, I think.
Someone has said that they counted up the words that Shakespeare used, how many different words, and I think it was in excess of 50,000. And then they counted up the words in the Bible, and they concluded that Shakespeare knew more words than God.
I bet. Of course, the Bible's had to go through several translations, from Aramaic, Greek, Latin, Hebrew, others. Okay.